one of the key features about learning to fire good shots is how you deal with it mentally. As in any other type of sport, 90% of the performance it has to do with 90% of the results have to do with the way you perform, and shooting is no different. And you have to focus on performance. You have to focus on doing it correct at your end, making sure that you've practiced and gone through all the right sequences, and then fire the shot. You let the rifle take care of what's happening downrange. You do it right at your end, the rifle will take care of it at the other end.
Okay. Yeah, while you're working on your ankles to sort of get them so that you can sit on them properly, you can put some kind of a pad or roll or something here underneath your instep or the edge of your ankle, so that you've got the weight now going down through that instead of coming directly onto your ankle. The idea is to eventually be able to work free of this, because you won't have this out in the bush necessarily, and you want to be able to get directly onto your ankle, so that you can just simply drop down and shoot from this position. Now, the traditional method of kneeling, once you've got the bottom part here right, from the waist up, is to you've got this forward knee that's sitting out here in front. So you're going to try to use that as a pedestal. You put your elbow on top of that, and then hold the rifle in a traditional sort of standing position. Now you must relax. If you try to grip the forestock here and try to pull it in here, you're going to create muscle tensions, because this is a very muscly position. You can see the biceps here is holding everything in place, and so you need to relax. Open your hand up and make that forward arm relax, and then just settle into the position here and make it do all the work at holding you up. If you see that your sight picture is bobbing around a lot, well, then the secret to try to settle that down is to relax. If you grip onto it too tight, all you're doing is just wearing out the muscles faster. So you relax all the muscles that you can, make the position do the work, relax into it, and just let it float. And then you just start squeezing the trigger, squeeze, and let the float happen. Let the float in the sight picture keep on happening. Good centered hit.
When we want to do the kneeling position with support, then we get into it exactly the same way as we did the sitting. We first adopt a traditional kneeling position, just like we were doing unsupported. Again, you got to think about your natural alignment and all those principles. But instead of actually physically holding the rifle up from now at this point, you do the same thing with a stick, all around grass, thumb out, lay the forestock on your thumb. You can rest your elbow on your knee, and then relax into the position. Although now it's steadier because you're not actually holding the rifle up. Okay, nice shot. This is a position that might well get used in the field, particularly if you need a little steadier position than standing, and you've got the terrain to do it, then you can drop down into this position, and very much steadier than standing. One other position that we hadn't mentioned earlier, that has you at about the same height, gun barrel height, as the kneeling, is the squatting position. And this is a very good position because it allows you to get stabler than standing, and yet has you high enough off the ground. Maybe you have to shoot over some kind of vegetation. What you do here, your feet are about shoulder width apart. You're about 45 degrees to your line of shot, and you simply just squat down, keeping your heels flat on the ground. And that's the critical part of the thing. Some people try to balance on their toes, and it doesn't work. You put your heels flat on the ground and just simply squat down, and put your elbows onto your knees, and now you've got these nice solid spots on which to put your elbows, and then the rest is about the same as the traditional sitting and the traditional kneeling. If this has a problem, is that you tend to rock a little bit this way, so it does take a little bit of practice. And if the wind's blowing, then it tends to buffet you back and forth a little bit. So I don't think it's quite as stable as the other kneeling positions that you were using. The position that you probably use the most when you're hunting is the standing position, and that's oftentimes because that's the position we happen to be in when the deer shows up. And so it takes a lot of practice. It's the unstablest of the least stable of any of the positions, and so you need to work on it the most. Every chance that you get, you need to understand how the standing position is supposed to feel, and dry fire from it all the time. Dry fire from it, and live shoot when you get a chance to go to the range. It's fairly simple. Your feet are about 45 degrees to the line of your shot. You want to be properly balanced on your feet. We saw times when people want to lean forward because they're going to, like a shotgunner stance, they're trying to absorb the recoil. That's not the way to do it, and you don't want to be leaning back too far because of balance. You want to have yourself properly balanced, standing erect. You put the rifle into your shoulder and you put it up as high as you can get it, so that you can keep your head level, keep your head up straight up and down, and keep your eyes level. Then you just draw it ever so gently into your shoulder so that it's there. You don't want to be pulling it hard again. You don't want your arms to be all flexed up. You want to, although this is a very muscly position as before, you want to try to minimize the amount of muscle tension that you've got. Then you try to keep your head upright, and you bring the rifle up to your face instead of trying to lean over into it. Stay erect as you can, and bring the rifle up to your line of sight. Then you simply have to make yourself go still. Now you can use this forward arm to some extent. If you bring it in a little bit, you can then rest the triceps against your chest here, which gives you a bit more support going into the rifle. You might have to lean back just ever so gently here to counteract the weight of the rifle out front, but not too much. So keep your head up as best you can, and just let the rifle settle. Watch your sight picture. The sight picture is going to be the hold pattern is going to be larger than any other position. You have to learn to accept that. That's the mental side of firing the perfect shot. It's going to be bigger, but as long as it's inside the kill zone on your animal, then just make sure the shot goes off someplace inside that holding pattern, and you'll have your kill shot. It's about 4 o'clock on the little dot. One other standing position that may be as useful, and of course all these positions we're talking about are just tools in your toolbox that you pull out in a given situation. We call this one a deliberate standing, and this is the standing position where you're not suddenly having to engage a target quickly, but one where you've got the time to establish it. And what you do is, instead of your hand here in a normal fashion, you simply rotate it. You put your thumb on the other side, your fingers on the other side, and then when you get into this position, now you've got the rifle down inside your arm. So the wrist is bent back as far as it can go. It can't go any further. The elbow's being bent backwards. It can't go any further. And then you rest your biceps here, or your triceps rather, onto your chest, and then you just simply settle into the position. It won't go down any lower. You can't physically make it go down any lower. So relax into the position and just settle. And you can see that the movement is slightly smaller than with the other, what we call the tactical position. About the only way that you can get support for a standing position, because it's so far up off the ground, is to try to find something that is at about the same height as your throat. You can either just grab a little sapling that happens to be standing beside you if you're in a tree line, or you can use a walking stick like we've got here. This is just something we picked up in the tree line and just cut it up a little bit to make it neater. But you use it in exactly the same way that you do in the other two positions where we use this, and that is by adopting the normal standing position. You grab the stick in an all-around grasp, you stick out your thumb, and you lay the rifle on it. Again, you want your hand at about the height of your throat, and then just simply lay the rifle on top of there, and then carry on with a normal standing shot. You should notice that your holding pattern has reduced somewhat, and so you should be able to deliver a little better standing shot than you did without the stick.